Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Blue Frontier. James here, joined by Ryan. Unfortunately, Sean tried to join us from a ski cabin, but the Wi-Fi was not cooperating, so we have had to cut him loose for this episode. It is unfortunate because I know he really wanted to record after Everton beat Spurs 3-2 at Goodison Park. A desperately needed 3 points for the Toffees off the back of a first-half bombardment of goals. Just our second win in the last 25 matches against Spurs in the Premier League, and the first home win versus Spurs in the Premier League since 2012. It is also the first Premier League win that we get to record a post-match for on the Blue Frontier, so we're really excited to get into it. Before we get into all the details, just a reminder to please leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. We really do appreciate it. Thanks to everyone who's left a review already. Join our Discord, follow us on all our socials, links in the description. And with that, we'll get into the match, starting with our summary quote. This one comes to us from Mid Partish from Blue Sky, who said, "Great to see us get a W and score some goals. Crazy how playing just a little less direct improved so many guys. Ghana and Jai, Lindy and DCL all impressive. JOB might even be serviceable at right back too. Nervy finish, a good reminder that the fight isn't over, but we can build off this." And I think that's a very, very good summary. Ryan, you had a slightly different match day routine today, and you wanted to give a shout out to some of the North Virginia guys.
Yeah, shout out to the Nova crew. I'd love to get down into DC more often, but it's really hard for me. So some people accommodated and came at least closer to me. The only thing I would say is that pretty sad that 2 out of our group had to go with the half Monty rather than the full Monty for breakfast. You would think Sludvig, being a proud Aussie, was a tough guy. Apparently not. He's soft. And Sleazy, I mean, the guy literally has a bionic arm. It's been installed. It's very similar to the Winter Soldier, basically. Like, he has to be careful opening doors and stuff. And he still couldn't handle the full Monty. But me and Spock had no problem doing it. So, what can I say? And I can't blame our 5th member, we'll go anonymous on these, for not indulging in that. But, it is what it was. No, it was really nice. It was fun. It was just kind of strange to kind of see it that way. It's been so long, James. And it was fun. But now I feel like we're on the hook to do some stuff now.
Yeah, Bugs from our Discord mentioned that all the North Virginia people in our Discord need to meet up for every match. And I would agree, and I think that extends to everyone. Whatever you did on today's match day, you just have to run it back until it stops working. So into score predictions, as we usually do. We only had one on the day. Congrats to Everton Fury 19 for the correct prediction. Who could have seen this scoreline coming? 3 goals for Everton. This definitely wasn't a broad prediction, but as we have mentioned on recent episodes, we are keeping a running tally of correct score predictions. So again, make sure to join our Discord. Link in the description. Get your score predictions in. We've got a running tally. We'll declare a winner at the end of the year. So let's get into lineups for both teams. We'll start with Everton. 2 changes for David Moyes, and I think 2 good ones overall. Obviously, it worked out, starting with Jesper Lindstrom in for Jack Harrison on the right, and then Jake O'Brien in for Ashley Young, which was, I think, had a lot of people scratching their heads prior to the match. Would we go to a back 3? Would we see Lindstrom maybe at right wing back or something like that? But it turns out it was a legit just slot him in at right back, and I think it overall worked out pretty well. We'll talk about the tactics later on, but my takeaway from just seeing the lineup was it's positive that Moyes, it only took 1 match for him to realize that he's got some good players who he didn't use and starting to put those guys in positions to be successful.
Yeah, it was good to see. I mean, giving these guys a chance and making it work. I hate the fact that he still feels like he has to experiment a little bit, but I think today was probably a good day to do it, at least on the attacking end, because if you look at Spurs' situation, I mean, they're ravaged by injury, especially in the back line. So you saw a guy like Dragusin, who's a good player, but still fairly young at 22. I mean, they're having to deal with the fact that Romero and Van de Ven are out. And those are 2 key players for them, very good players. Davies is a senior player. He can kind of come in. But when you're playing Archie Gray as an 18-year-old, as well as Bergvall, both guys that could be very good, both 18-year-olds in there in the mix trying to defend, it makes it a little bit harder. And I think we took advantage too. And I think the big curveball today was Dominic Solanke being declared out fairly late into the week. It brings Madison's son and Kulu kind of all together, and they're fairly fluid and whatnot, but it's not the same. Son is more dangerous, I think, on the left, and having a true focal point in attack makes a big difference. And it didn't look like Richie was probably ready to go 90, and I'm not so sure he's all in favor as well. So just with that and the misses in the midfield, I mean, it's a very different team, Sean, James, and it's too bad Sean isn't here to give us his whole Premier League spiel on this, but they're already kind of playing not great. And in a match that's going to go wide open and there's going to be individual battles that need to be won, I think this was good opportunity for us. And I think there was one particular key matchup too, James, that was hard to ignore if you look at their misses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that being Dominic Calvert-Lewin, entrusted by David Moyes to lead the line again, even though I think on this pod we've been saying maybe it's time to bench him. Obviously, that decision benefited him. But going into this match, my immediate thought was Dom against that back line. That looks like a back line that's you could very easily get at, and he certainly did. I mean, young players, they're not all that big. Davies, they're just not super physical guys. Dragusin and DCL got into it, but that was a key matchup to me. How would Dom do against that back line? We know he struggled against some of the more physical guys, and he hasn't been getting a lot of calls, which is something we'll circle back on later in the episode.
What I think is very interesting, too, is people forget, they look and say, oh, these guys are just kids and whatnot. Well, maybe, but, some of these guys are not cheap, too. I mean, that's the amazing part about it is, Everton have spent nothing. I mean, Spurs dropped over 40 million euros for Archie Gray. He's 18 years old from Leeds. That's not nothing. I mean, Dragusin wasn't cheap either. He was courtesy of our fellow brethren and 777 partners, right?
Almost fellow brethren. Thankfully, not our brethren, actually.
Right, exactly. Although I feel like Johannes Spurs went from director of football for the whole 7-7 group right over to Spurs too, which has kind of been interesting. So that's fascinating. But yeah, I think the other key matchup is that knowing they're going to be fluid, you look at their wingbacks, especially on the right side for them, Kulu and Porro kind of teaming up. Porro's a really, really good player. He serves the ball incredibly well. And we talked a little bit in the past about how Moyes can sometimes play a more defensive fullback and kind of morphs into a 3 with one fullback being more aggressive. I think we've also talked a lot about whether Mikalenko is that right player or not, but certainly with Jake O'Brien being out there playing right back, I could see it going that way, but you have to watch Porro. So if that allows Mikalenko, maybe he wouldn't be as attacking as you would like, but at least to get out on Porro and try and prevent him from crossing the ball, that's a good thing. But it's hard to defend those guys. They're fluid. If you just had O'Brien out right to just deal with Son 1v1, I like that. Madison throws a wrinkle out there too, James. I mean, he gives us a little bit of a problem as a creative type down the middle, knowing we only have 2 midfielders, but I thought it went fairly well today. We'll get into that in a little bit. I mean, look, getting into the timeline, I thought we started off with the bang. I think we came out fairly aggressive, and it was good to see a little quality from a guy that really hasn't played enough, in my opinion, early.
Yeah, great early signs from Lindstrom with the shot in the 6th minute. He strikes it really well from the top of the 18, forces... It was a pretty comfortable save, but it's a well-hit ball, no question about it. And that was just the first good sign for Everton in what was a very, very good first half. Just 6 minutes later, we kick off the scoring. Completely caught me by surprise, but it's Dominic Calvert-Lewin with a really good bit of individual composure. Scores his first Premier League goal in about Everton's first Premier League goal in 330 minutes. Last time we scored was Njai's goal versus Man City, if you can even remember back that
that
far.
came out of nowhere, too. I mean, it's
100%. And it was Dom's first goal since September. That's a 16-game scoreless streak broken, which is just awesome.
You know who is not surprised about this goal? Who do you think on the Discord? So
DL.
There you go, DL. You can yap about it now for the whole next week or so. It started by just attacking as a collective. You know what I mean? Lindstrom is really important to these attacks. His quality on the ball is fantastic. He kind of it takes a funny ball. His first touch is good enough. Makes a nice lateral pass to Mangal. It's funny that if you let Lindstrom play fast, Dyche is not necessarily so rapid counterattacking, but if you let him play fast and give him time and space, you could see how quality he is technically. Kind of goes to Mangala, gets to Ghana. Ghana makes this kind of across the body pass right into Dom, into the penalty area. He receives it really well. I'm just so impressed by the close control and the composure here. He's got 3 guys around him. Yes, maybe he should have been marked tighter. Maybe someone should have gotten on him more physically. But I feel like he's really improved his ball control and his carrying ability. We just haven't seen it that much. But you see it here, and the finish here is just fantastic.
Yeah, to go near post with the finish, and also the patience to go left and then go back right to get the shot off. I think with his scoreless streak, you wouldn't have blamed him for just kind of taking any opportunity and trying to get a quick shot off. The composure, the close ball control to your body, and creating just a little bit of space, and then keeper had zero chance of saving that. It's really well placed. A great goal from Dom. And again, within the first quarter of an hour, it's fantastic. Great out of the gates from Everton.
And look, Spurs are going to have their chances the way this match was going to go. No question about it. Almost not right after, but it looked kind of open. And Son gets in on goal here in the 17th. I think this is a really important play. I don't know why he delayed to shoot the ball. Take the shot. He didn't. Tark eventually comes in and makes a great sliding tackle for a block. This to me was slightly concerning. I think there's some problems if we're playing higher up the pitch with Tarkowski's lack of recovery pace. He gets there in time, but I don't know if he really was in time. I think Son just kind of hesitated. And maybe that's the nature of a team playing without confidence. Spurs have scored a lot of goals this year, but they're just not playing very well. So kudos to Tark for being so precise with the shot block. I mean, it's kind of his thing, right? And the tackle. That concerned me a little bit. And then what really concerned me is this next big chance in the 23rd. I honestly think, James, this is kind of like the play of the match to me, because this is such a massive chance that doesn't go Spurs' way.
Yeah, for Spurs, I think this was definitely the moment that turned the tides for them. It's Porro playing Kulusevski through. It's across to Son, and he's basically right at the penalty spot, and he's open. He shoots it on the ground, and it goes kind of right at Pickford. He gets it, and he holds on to it. Or he makes a save, and he holds on to it, which is great. But it's a huge chance. 0.26 XG, 0.2 expected post-shot XG. It's a massive chance. Dare I say he has to score from there?
Has to score there. And I think this play was a little bit lack of rehearsed defensive setup from Everton. I mean, we're playing differently now, where if your fullback's going to press up the pitch and someone gets played kind of in behind him, I didn't like that the left center back went out for that ball. I mean, Ghana's a couple steps behind, but really that's how you wanted to play. I think Moyes, if he's going to get the fullbacks up, the defensive mids have to cover for the fullback more. And whether maybe JB should have stayed home a little bit, let Ghana catch up, I don't know, but it created a massive opening. It's a massive chance. But the good part is, I mean, when those chances happen, I mean, there's some luck in football, right? As Ronald Koeman would say, that's football. And so when it doesn't go in, even though if he has to score there, now I'm thinking, well, maybe this is our day. And from here on out, we just put on the Jets, man.
Yeah, it was a just torrent of Everton opportunities and near opportunities as well. In the 24th, Branthwaite makes a great ball over the top to Dom, who's in. It's kind of bouncing, and he takes a little bit of a clumsy. It's a difficult touch off his thigh, and it comes a little heavy off of that thigh, and Kinski's able to come out and grab it. But then just a couple minutes later, again, Everton, Njai dribbling, has a duel. It comes to DCL, who passes it to Mangala, who takes a great shot and forces a really difficult save. Goes off the post, heads out wide, is back in. It's chaos. There's a header. Like, just Everton pressuring a little bit relentlessly. And then just 3 minutes after that, it's the second goal from Njai, which, I mean, what a bit of individual quality.
I mean, he picks this darn thing up off that little give and go from Ghana at like midfield and just takes off. I mean, the step overs, dude, the angle that he cuts with his ankles on moving the ball, the technique is beautiful and the finish is spectacular. I mean, to be able to elevate a ball in tighter quarters like that, that's how you have to score when the keeper comes out. Now, you could argue he could have made himself bigger, but I don't think many people are stopping that thing. I think it's a great finish. It just goes to show you the combination of pace, power, and skill that Njai has. Like, even if Dragusin had a chance to body him, he's not knocking him over. The balance is all there. I like some of these tweets down here below. I agree with Luke. That's who this reminded me of a little bit.
Yeah, Luke at Luke Wilco 1878 said, Njai giving Morales vibes with his goal today. Superb. Not seen one like that for years. I mean, agreed. It's been a long time since we've seen Everton scoring on the break with individual quality like that. And then Joe Thomas from the Echo at Joe_Thomas18 said, David Moyes delighted with Ilman Njai and others today. On Njai, though, he says he took his goal really well and adds, I want him to ball carry more. I want him to be an attacking threat, to take the ball and face people up. Well, you've certainly got a good guy to do those things, because we've seen Njai. That is where he thrives. So Moyes getting the best, asking his players to do what they're best at. I mean, that's, again, a positive sign.
I just felt like we really got in the groove after the Sun miss. You know, it was kind of like a relief, and we just turned it on. I don't know. Something clicked. Something happened. Because if you look at that time from about that miss all the way until the subs, where we kind of started backing off a little bit in the second half, 9-2 in shots, James. 87% pass success. We didn't have great possession, but it didn't really matter. 17-10 in tackles, 9-4 in aerials won. I just felt like we got on the front foot and we started to bully these guys a little bit. And with their lineup, that was possible. And maybe it was to the refereeing too, where we felt like we could go out, we could be physical and not get called for everything. and you could tell some of the Spurs players weren't having it either. The Bergvall response to the yellow in the 40th, that's such a blatant foul and yellow. Like Dom was past him. He bodies him after he goes by. Just he looked incredulous. He looked a lot like Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone with those looks. That's how I think I said at the pub. Yeah, right. I mean, it just looked. I mean, he looks like a kid anyway. He is. He's only 18, right? And this could have been a massive chance. Njai, by the way, showed a little bit today how creative he can be too with his passing. Not everything's perfect, but the opportunities, he does create opportunities. You could see this guy playing with a better team. I mean, my God. And we saw a better team today. And then things got flat out bloody in the 42nd, James.
Yeah, this is Dom going up for that aerial with Dragusin, and I think he's just trying to make himself big in the air, but he does catch him right in the face with the elbow. Dragusin goes down for basically what amounted to the full 10 minutes of stoppage time. Why is he down on the field for that long? Why do they not make him deal with his face? I guess you think it's a head injury. They probably can't move him, but he's fine to carry on. It was maybe a yellow. I don't think it's intentional from Dom, but you draw blood. It's probably reasonable to think he'd probably get carded for that.
He was just enjoying the blood. He is from Romania. I'm just throwing it out there, Sorry, that's a Nosferatu Dracula reference there for people that don't get it. Vlad the Impaler, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, moving on. And sure enough, before the end of the half too, I mean, this probably helped us a little bit in a way to kind of get resettled and whatnot. It certainly didn't take the heat off them a little bit. Maybe that was part of the thing, James. I mean, it was not going well for them. I don't know who to give credit to this, but it was very nice to get a free kick delivery now that Dwight is gone. That was dangerous. And we did create stuff from free kicks. Lindstrom, when he's striking it well, man, it comes in with some heat too. And this is a great combination of play. I mean, it's an own goal, but we were all over it. And they just couldn't deal with us physically in many ways, especially after the referee warned everyone early in the match to just stop the hugging. I mean, Jed Spence was literally wrapping his arms completely around O'Brien. And O'Brien was looking at him like, do not make me go back and embrace my old boxing skills and knock you out, because this is ridiculous. I mean, it was absurd, James, but I don't blame him. I would do the same thing if you were so physically outmatched. But sure enough, we get another one here, and it's 3-0 at half.
Yeah, the third goal is an own goal. It's from a Lindstrom corner, which just a few moments before that, he had another really great free kick delivery from a free kick that he won. That was the Tark diving header. But this one, Lindstrom puts in the corner. It gets cleared, but it comes back to him. Goes to the tried and true Tarkowski at the far post, who puts it back across the face of goal. And Gray just kind of caught in a tough position. Goes off his thigh, deflects.
Dom hits this.
He does get a piece.
It doesn't count, DL.
It does not count. It is an own goal, but from putting the ball in a dangerous place where the defense doesn't really have a lot they can do about it.
Yeah, we had numbers there, really, and they were in trouble. And you're asking some kids to do some stuff that maybe they're not fully comfortable with. Now, it's sad that we couldn't score directly off the corner for the first time all years, but we'll take the own goal corners, and we get to half here with a 3-goal lead, James. This is when was the last time that happened?
Well, conveniently enough, I actually have that for us. First time Everton have had a 3 or more goal lead at halftime since February 2017 under the already mentioned on this episode of Ronald Koeman, which is crazy to think it's been that long, but we know our goal scoring problems. That is football indeed. But caps off a dominant half for Everton. 1.71 XG to 0.39 for Spurs, and almost all of that was the Sun chance. I mean, we looked like a really competent attacking outfit, I will say.
Yeah, and Keeper made a couple pretty good saves on that one, too, if you think about the Mangala save. And Lindstrom's was right at him, but still, that was a stinger. Of course, at halftime, they make a change, bringing in the beloved former Evertonian and son of the Glady Street, Richarlison. Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Was this a tactical one? They basically took out their one competent center back. No offense to Ben Davies. I guess from the injury, like if he was actually injured and had an issue, he should not have gone back yet.
Exactly right. So it felt, I mean, it's not a like for like sub. It felt tactical. Like, we're down 3-0, get a striker on. We need to do something dramatically different.
Well, they've said a lot about how Ange isn't all that tactical. I mean, he trains lots of individual moments in preparation for game moments, but he's not a super tactician. Like, there's not a strict system. And as a result, you can see the games kind of go all over the place at times. It's fun to play in. It's easy to attract talent to it. But, and look, if any team's going to come back from this as wide open as they can be, it's these guys. I mean, I thought maybe it would have been better to try and focus a little bit more on hitting them back on the counter. But but we kind of let this one play out for a while. I can't say the first part of the second half was all that riveting, but we still look good, and they really weren't doing too much. A couple times where I thought we got a little aggressive in the box, but not called. I thought they were okay calls. Decore kicking the ball away was pretty funny in the 67th. That was great. And then we make a sub, which does change the game, but do we fault him for this sub? I mean, Young coming in for Lindstrom. Lindstrom was fabulous. But you look at the numbers. I mean, we're on the front foot a little bit and certainly not conceding anything. James, what do we think about this sub?
It's an interesting one. It did change the game quite a bit. I think Lindstrom probably he was working really hard, running a lot. I think he had started to fade by the 70th minute or so. So I don't take too many issues with the idea of an attacking sub for a more defensive one. We're up 3-0. You just try to see out the game at that point. You don't need to get too crazy and go for 4 or 5. Let's not get out over our skis too much here. But I think it's worth noting that from halftime to the sub of Young, Everton were still 3-0 in shots. The possession was more lopsided, to like 60-40 to Spurs. They out-dribbled us 7-1, but we won 13 tackles to their 5.
We're kicking them all over the place at this point.
So all over the place, they weren't having any luck. They had 3 corners, but they weren't creating anything, and that changed quite a bit after the change from Moyes.
Yeah, from the sub on, I mean, it was almost 72% possession for Spurs, 7 shots to 0, 2 corners, and we only made 1 tackle from this all the way. 10 clearances. Jake had 4 of them. God, he was immense today. And sure enough, like in the 72nd minute, almost right after this, Madison kind of gets their first shot in 40 minutes. So you could argue what works and what doesn't. If you want to play up and down with these guys, I don't know what's going to happen. You're basically booking that you're going to score the 4th goal. I don't know if we're the type of goal-scoring team that you really want to do that with. So I can't totally argue with it. I think there's some weaknesses in personnel here, though. I mean, Young just cannot defend in space anymore. He's been so good for us, honestly, this year, way beyond, I think, what reasonable expectations could be for him. But you could see when he's on the wing there, it's just different. I'd almost have Jesper in there defending 1v1. And sure enough, the Spurs score here in the 76th minute. God, I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, in this one, I feel like Pick does actually pretty well here. Tark again, the ball gets over the top. Tark's recovery pace just isn't there. But look, I mean, can we argue this was not just an absolutely exquisite finish?
Yeah, it truly was. I mean, Kulusevski, and cool, calm, collected. Like, he makes it look incredibly easy with his touch and technique on this one. It's a .11 XG shot, post-shot XG 0.84. So he takes a really nothing chance and scores a really remarkable goal, honestly.
I mean, it goes over JB, Tark, and Jake. I mean,
right. What else are you supposed to do? I mean, that's just a really quality. He's a good player. That's what else are you going to say?
Oh, yeah, he's a very good player. I mean, he's just so versatile. He can do so many different things. You already made the Cole comment. You made a ski comment. Is this taunting Sean in some way? I may have to lodge a complaint here, James.
No, I'm not trying to take any digs at all. I promise you that. But a good goal from Kulusevski, and the commentators made this remark on the broadcast, but you could feel the nerves start to creep into the crowd at least a little bit, even though it's 3-1. By all accounts, should be comfortable, but we know that this is Everton. And Moyes responds 3 minutes later in making another substitute, Nathan Patterson for Ilman Ndiaye.
And look, at least Nathan Patterson did what he tried to do, carry the ball, make some moves, and do something. Because when Ndiaye leaves, now we've got no threat really on the counter to carry, other than Dukes. And I mean, Dukes at this point is not the same swashbuckling box-to-box player he was even 5 years ago. So this is an obvious need on this team. Having someone besides Ndiaye who can get out into open space and really run with the ball. It just isn't there. They had a couple rattling chances here in the 83rd, and they were coming on. There's no question about it, which is anticipated, right? We were sitting back almost 6 in the back at times. And then there's this sub in the 86th minute. Can you understand this one at all? I hate this sub on so many levels. I know it almost seems inconsequential. It wasn't, but I don't understand this sub. Like, what is he thinking here?
Yeah, that's Michael Keane for Jake O'Brien. At this point, I don't really know. You're just trying to batten down the hatches. Jake worked really hard. He was getting forward, I think, a little more than he has in his career up the right-hand side, something he looked not all that comfortable doing, but you're just trying to defend the box, and I don't know why Jake O'Brien's not a better option than Michael Keane, just fresh legs. It's a weird one. We had a comment from at Nathaniel C 10910 who said, for 75 minutes, we were very good. Nice to see us look more comfortable in possession. I thought the subs were a bit strange, however. Keane and Young didn't get up to the speed of the game. Spurs did have a lot of attacking players on, in fairness. So is it just Ange is throwing on all his attacking players? Moyes says, all right, well, I'll counteract that by putting on defensive players.
I mean, this is when you don't spend. I mean, this is what you got on your bench, basically. And sure enough, it turned around and hurt us. In the 92nd minute, who, of course, Richie scores, short corner routine, Mickey Moore. God, there's another kid that they had to bring in. I mean, they're just decimated. Finds Richie at the far post. I mean, again, Richie, timing is impeccable. The movement is perfect. Easy finish. But this is some pretty bad defending and goalkeeping, even by Jordan Pickford. Like, what is Keane doing here?
Yeah, scratching my head. And it still a couple minutes. There were 4 minutes of stoppage time in the second half. They have 2 minutes, and every Evertonian's thinking back to Bournemouth. I mean,
just anchored into the ground. It's like he didn't even move. I mean, it's a cross. Like, why would you not step back? I just don't get it at all. You know, there's a player there in Pickford. Go get the ball. Like, you know, it's funny when he plays well at the end of matches and closes it out. It's when he's more aggressive. You know, he even hesitated on another one a minute or two later. I'm like, go get the ball. There's no excuse for this goal. It's just terrible. Made things a little bit stressful. I really wasn't that concerned about it just because I didn't feel like they had the personnel. They looked exhausted. I thought it would be fine, but like, this is inexcusable. Like, this is terrible, terrible defending, and it's just bitter. You know, I'm glad we won. Let's move on, but I don't know. This one really rubbed me the wrong way, and maybe Moyes learned something from it. I know he's been talking about how much time he needs to learn about the team. But anyway, taking a step back, James, look, it's a great win, and, you know, take a bow recruitment team on this one, because why was Jake O'Brien not playing? Why would Lindstrom not play? He's had like 7 starts in the league before this. What on earth is going on here? And Njai, I mean, think about this. Njai and O'Brien, both those guys were picked off for under 20 mil. O'Brien's 23 years old as a center back, man. Like, what a talent. Playing right back. And Njai, I mean, you can't speak enough about this kid. I mean, they've had their eyes on him, long-term target for so long. I mean, what a goal, what an impact. I mean, he's the absolute engine that drives our attack.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and he absolutely is. In the end, I mean, it's the own goal that makes the difference, but it's the 3-0 lead that became insurmountable in the end, and that's really important to have gotten that comfortable, because if it was 2-0, we'd be talking about a draw.
And look, if you look kind of, we have the passing networks up here and stuff, and you could see that they were pushing some players up higher on the right, but literally the left was the predominant area where they were moving the ball and attacking through kind of Davies. And Spence got up forward quite a bit. I mean, he's not the most incredible on the ball. And so credit to Jake O'Brien for being out there and stuffing them and doing as well as he did. I mean, he's hard to play through. He's athletic. He's big. And, you know, if you just look at it, that's how it was. I mean, Tottenham attacked 46% of the time down the left side. And, you know, we attacked more down the right. But you could tell, I think a lot of that was really because Mika was a little bit pinned back. But I guess what I'm a little confused about is I would have opted to go through Porro more. So kudos for us for taking that out of the game a little bit. I mean, I think Moyes probably had us pretty well set up and capable of dealing with things. And, you know, Ange is just handcuffed right now. He just doesn't have the horses. Maybe he could do some things different tactically, but there's only so much you can do with that squad.
Yeah, they made a lot of noise on the broadcast about the pressure he's under and everything, and some of that's warranted, but I like this comment from El Pavote Football. He said, feel sorry for Ange. Yes, he has obvious flaws, but to have 8 starters out would kill 99% of managers. Maybe of his own making, but still that's hard to overcome. And I think that's a really important context to view this entire match in. Like, we looked great attacking, we scored goals, but they are not the Spurs that we have played in seasons past. They are decimated. They're just missing a ton of guys, and there's really not much you can do to overcome that. I mean, if we lost 8 starters, we would be totally cooked. And yes, we don't have the depth, but point still stands. But that said, there were some interesting numbers from this match that we want to hit and go through real quick.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, they just didn't have the players to get their attacking threats the ball. They still have guys that can attack. I mean, no one would complain with an attack of like Kulu, Son, and Madison. I mean, those are really, and Richarlison coming off the bench. So, I mean, cry me a little bit of a river. I mean, but, I mean, Ange is going to play the way he is, and they expect to play that way too. It's just when you got the guys behind him that can't supply him the ball well enough, but it's really the back line. And the back line just isn't there for them. But yeah, the numbers favored Everton. I mean, it was nice to be able to go through numbers like this after a match, James. I mean, XG of over 2 for Everton with an expected goals post shot of higher. We actually beat our XG. James, it happens. And we got 0.77 XG from set plays. That was great to see. 12 to 11 in shots, even on shots on target. But this is, I think, a very important number, is what we did in the box versus what they did in the box.
Yeah, 9 of Everton's 12 shots inside the box. We talked a lot in the squad assessment. Go back and listen to it. Not a lot of quality opportunities to score, and getting 9 just shows how effectively we were able to penetrate their defense and create opportunities.
I just think it's disappointing that we didn't get at least one Ghana screamer into the stands, just to keep people on their toes. But no, that's important. We even talked about Jesper, like how shooting from distance is desperation. It's not something that we need to be doing. And I felt like we were a little bit patient in terms of how we took our chances, and they worked out. I mean, look, we had 27 touches in the box versus they had 23. So they had the ball a lot, but they really did not penetrate into the penalty box that often. We won the duel battle, 65-57. Yes, they had the ball a lot, but 9 interceptions. We talked about the lack of aggression we had defensively and the inability to turn that into transition opportunities. Again, maybe it's Spurs, but look, we were even in fouls too, James. Like, I feel like
Huge.
The refereeing, we've talked about it a couple times, it was even today. And let's go back to the one key matchup we said, look, if you can handle the wide attack, that's one thing, but you may be sacrificing a little bit down the middle. And James Madison, other than being a decent university here in Virginia and a great president, just was not as effective on the pitch today for Spurs. And I think that was really important for today.
Yeah, we know that he definitely has tormented Everton in the past, but today, just 2 shots, 3 touches in the box, 1 for 3 in dribbles, and he had 3 fouls. I think he was fouled twice. So effectively neutralized. You talk about their dangerous attack. Didn't do a whole lot today. And I think that's a testament to the defensive unit.
Now the question, and I'm going to ask it, not to be a Debbie Downer, I'm just throwing it out there. How much of this was Everton brilliance versus Spurs just not being there on the defensive end?
Unfortunately, I think it's a lot to do with how bad Spurs were. I was shocked, even with the depleted personnel, how bad they were. But we did have, to the original comment at the top of the episode, a lot more cohesive attacking movements and guys looking to play one-touch passes into space, connecting, not going so direct, looking to build from the midfield through the midfield, getting in behind effectively. And that's partially a Spurs trait. They're typically open in the back. But it's a balance of both. I think I'd caution Evertonians from getting too carried away. I know it's nice to get a win for the first time in a long time, but this was not a good Spurs side.
Yeah, look, the bottom line is, though, that we were aggressive. We showed courage. God, I hate using platitudes like that, but we did. And look, they did expose us a couple times on the backside. I think I'm a little concerned about James Tarkowski, who's, as Moyes would say, a good box defender, but not necessarily a guy who can play a high line, although he was good on the ball today, very good. Whether this is repeatable against a team with the stouter defense, I don't know. We'll see. But that's important, right? You got to push up a little bit to make it easier on your defense, and maybe with better chemistry, we'll be fine. That would be the only thing I'd point to that still's a little bit concerning for me. And having to place, you could place Jake at right center back, but you need a legitimate fullback to do that. I think our bench showed our. We just need more talent.
We absolutely do, and I think to the point that we were open in the back. I mean, good teams that push forward do sometimes leave themselves open in the back. That is the trade-off. I think Deitch leans so heavily on being strong defensively, cost us everything going forward. And maybe Moyes is trying to find a little bit better balance between both attack and defense.
And look, if you have a strong keeper, take risk. I mean, seriously, Pick is good. I mean, he may have been bad on the second goal, but, he really wasn't particularly good today, but he didn't have quite as much to do. But the difference is you can rely on him most matches. So good for him either way, just for being back there and knowing that you can count on him. And that's a massive difference, especially in a relegation battle. Okay, there were lots of good performances today. I'll kind of let you kick this one off because there's a lot of names we could go through.
Yeah, it's so funny after a win. It's like, take your pick. There's so many good choices. I went with Jesper Lindstrom first and foremost for me. Had 4 key passes today, an XA number of 0.48, which is really good. One very good shot on target early, which we touched on in the timeline. He was 4 for 11 in crosses, but really good delivery, both from open play crossing the ball and from some set pieces, which is something we've so desperately missed. He was 0 for 3 in dribbles, but he was 19 for 21 in passes. He had 2 clearances, 2 interceptions, and a couple of tackles as well. This is a game, I think, that is going to make a lot of people who were hating on Lindstrom reevaluate their position quite quickly.
Yeah, no doubt. You could tell the skill that he has on the ball and the fluidity and speed he can play at versus others cannot. And you saw it today. Like, it was really nice to see. And it helps. I mean, I thought Ghana, and I'm about to get him in a second, and Mangala are decent enough on the ball to facilitate and make that happen. And I thought Dom's combo play was pretty good as well today. But yeah, I just think Idrissa Gana Gueye was just outstanding today. He was great on the ball. He's normally decent on the ball. Today I thought he was outstanding. No long shots, James. 2 key passes, 2 assists. Led the team with a 94.6% pass rate. Again, assists are stupid. The fact that he got an assist on the NJ goal is ridiculous, but okay.
And arguably on the Dom goal too.
I mean, it's point A of like, XA of like 0.17. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But he had 54 touches, 1 less than Tark, who had the most. 3 tackles, an interception, 6 passes into the final third. Then he was 7 of 9 in duels won. I mean, their midfield just could not deal with him. Fouled 3 times as well. In important moments, I felt like, too, to slow the game and stop it. So kudos to him. And I think we'd be remiss to not mention the back line, too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Jared Branthwaite, especially, a little bit of a narrative emerging that we've been talking about on the pod.
Much better today.
Much, much better today. He was 3 for 3 in ground duels, 45 touches. Pass accuracy, not that great, but he was 5 for 9 in long balls, which talked about his ability on the ball, starting to show that a little bit more. 2 interceptions and 3 tackles. Just looked much, much improved.
And he won his battles. I mean, 3 for 3 in ground duels, 3 for 3 in tackles. I mean, it's just when it came time for him to recover and make a moment and go in there and win a ball, he did it. And I think credit for him for doing that. That's what we really need for him to do. 6 clearances. He was there and he was athletic. But I'll tell you what, one of the players of the match today was Jake O'Brien. I just cannot believe we haven't played this guy until now. It's really disappointing that anyone, imagine opting for Michael Keane before this kid. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understood the first game. I know. I understood the first game, but not after that. Especially if you're going to play higher up, this kid is an absolute godsend. First of all, he's good on the ball. Like, the fact that he even play right back at 6'6" is kind of absurd. 6 clearances, 2 recoveries, 1 aerial, and just solid on the ball getting forward. I would have never subbed him out. It was just great to see. And he did take care of the ball. I mean, he was 77% passing rate, especially with some of the places where he had the ball in. Pinged a couple long balls, 2 of 5 for that. But, I mean, the guy, he was absolutely immense today, being asked to do some stuff that he hasn't done a ton. He has carried the ball forward a little bit from the right side, but not truly in a right back position. Against a good attacking front 3, he was outstanding. I mean, the sky's the limit for this kid. I just think he is so talented. He moves like someone much smaller. Some of the decision-making and the reading of the game, okay, not perfect, but a 23-year-old that has his physical tools and technical tools any day of the week, man, for me.
Yeah, putting that kind of performance in out of position is just a testament to how good he is, and I think Moyes will be hard-pressed to take him out of the team going forward, for sure. One other person I wanted to mention, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, of course, outperformed his XG today. 1 goal on 0.9 XG. That's a nice positive trend. Had 6 shots today. Got 2 on target and 1 was blocked, but that type of service, something he hasn't seen in some time, so he'll be quite pleased with that. Pass accuracy, nothing super noteworthy. Did have the key pass, but the thing I really wanted to key in on was that he won 11 out of 15 aerials. That is 3 higher than he had in any other match of the season. Previous high was 8 against Bournemouth in the 3rd game of the season. We talked about it as a key matchup, and I think he delivered on that opportunity to exploit their back line and winning those balls and knocking them on to players who are actually moving beyond him, getting up, receiving. Everything was very different from the Dom we've seen so far this year.
He just needs to get his head on it when there's players around him. But there hasn't been under Dyche. You've just not been able to get players forward, and it's very difficult to play in that system where you have to hold for a long time. Dom can run into space now. NJ can get it deeper and run with it. There are multiple options, and I think, yes, he was clearly helped by the lack of defenders out there, and maybe another match he gets shoved around a little bit, but, fouled 4 times. He was a nuisance all match. Okay. That being said, great performance. Gives us a little bit of breathing room. Badly needed. This team still needs a lot of help. And again, don't want to kind of turn it into a sour note, but I'm still not real thrilled with some of the comments from David Moyes related to recruitment. Credit to him today, to dialing up a good game plan, making some changes quickly, which that I was happy to see, stuff that Dyche was just unwilling to do. Playing the guys that we got in the summer who were actually really good. What a surprise. But some of these quotes, James, I mean, and credit to
let me run through them, Ryan, and
Everton's
then I'll let you
latest,
react.
by the way, for quoting him. So I borrowed heavy from them. But okay, I will let you recite them. See if you could do it without getting angry.
All right, so this is in the post-match, obviously. Been getting asked a lot about the January window and incomings.
It might have been pre-match, actually. To be correct. If I could be wrong, but
you're right.
I think I saw him this morning, and I'm just like, man, make it stop.
You're right, indeed. So Moyes said, in regard to new additions to the squad, it's got to be right for Everton, and that's why I've always probably taken my time, maybe a little bit longer, to try and hope that I get it right more often. It's my way of going about it. He went on to say, I think managers live and die by their recruitment. You have to get your recruitment right. If you get that right, then you're going to stand a chance of winning more games, probably staying in the job a lot longer. So, I mean, I can anticipate the qualms that you have with these statements, Ryan, but I'll let you lay them out for me.
Well, it's just the accountability. That's not how it should work. If you have a proper director of football model, you can't hold the coach responsible for recruitment. He does and makes do with what he can do. That doesn't mean he doesn't indicate needs. That doesn't mean he can't look at a final list and say, okay, I'd rather have this guy than this guy. I hope that's okay, blah, 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 that type of thing. What I have a problem with is that this team had needs. I mean, you could see it had needs. Just watch all the matches. I mean, it shouldn't really take this idea of, well, I want to play differently than Sean Dyche. Let's see how it goes. I mean, you got to be ready to do this. Like, we need help. I mean, thank goodness we won today. Massive win for us. It cuts him a little bit of slack, but I mean, you saw when we brought subs in, it wasn't just tactics. It was just inability to play. I mean, Ashley Young getting beat to the line by kids, guys that he could not keep up with. Patterson came on and did some positive stuff, but I mean, you can't rely on him to defend. Michael Keane coming on. Like, if you felt the need to sub off Jake for some reason, fine, whatever. But there's no other option. And you could tell, like, when Njai left the match, when Lindstrom left the match, the athleticism and the ability to counter them and take advantage of them pressing high was just not there. Dom was completely isolated again. And Decore, for all the things I appreciate about him and the engine he is, and he was disruptive somewhat today, he's not good enough on the ball to be a 10 in this team, in a team that wants to counter rapidly and wants to retain the ball a little bit, In Dyche's team, he was so important, his ability to run into space and make himself available. These needs, I mean, have they changed, James? I mean, what do you think? I'm kind of curious if they've shifted a little bit. And then we'll get to Yield Dog's comment here because it kind of plays into it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think anything's changed. I mean, if your recruitment strategy changes off the result of one game, then you have a very bad recruitment strategy. So I think the recommendations that we've made on the squad assessment still hold up. It's still the wingbacks as great as, or fullbacks as good as O'Brien was today. That's not where you want him playing every single week. I mean, that's a little bit silly. And Mikolenko, again, has looked better the last couple games under Moyes, but he's still not really the type of dynamism we need on the left wing. So if anything, I think I agree with you, Ryan, on your comments on Decore that kind of some kind of center mid is definitely needed. And Decore may not be the guy who drops, but a 10, someone, if you can move Njai into that 10, you need someone behind him who can really kind of break up play and really be good on the ball.
Yeah, I think today we defended a lot in 4-4-2 until they broke the pressure. I think Njai can defend in that. You know what I mean? I think he would have been fine playing the 10, but if you take him out, who runs the ball from the left side? You know what I mean? So I think, to me, and a versatile attacking player in some capacity, it might be nice to get to. One who can play out wide, maybe move Njai into the 10, and maybe one that could play, if we're going to truly play 4-2-3-1 and have a 10, maybe have to drop deeper sometimes to defend deeper. Maybe being more of a distributor, more of kind of an 8-ish that can play as a 10, someone who can get on the ball a little bit better. I think those are the needs. And that way Decore can come on later and he can use his legs to run people down and battle, or if we really need a transition, he can play deeper into one of those center mid positions. Jimmy Garner coming back into the fold will be interesting to see how he is used. Maybe you feel like with him and Jake, that gives us enough options at right back. Instead, you go left back. back. You could solve some of these problems by just playing wing backs and playing a back three. But again, I think the big question too now is at the center forward position. Look, we can need help a lot of different places. But I still think it's probably left back, right wing attacking type player. Although Jesper looked very good in it. I'd also like to see Jack Harrison get a chance to play back in the left wing. I just think that he's better off there. Clearly, it's not worked out for him. He did a lot of right stuff and down the middle stuff in Leeds his last year, but he was predominantly a left winger leading into that. We know how productive he was there. But yeah, center forward's still an interesting one, James, and I like this comment here.
Yeah, from Yield Dog 1. What do you think Moyes and Thelwell are thinking about keeping / selling DCL and Beto based on the last 2 DCL starts? I think it's a really interesting question. I don't know that today changes my overall opinion. I think Dom had a great game, and I'm beyond happy for him and for Everton. But I still think the contract situation has to be one of the foremost things you consider here.
I think you can move one. I still can't believe he won't sign. Maybe his opinion will change.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Maybe he got 6 shots in a game. Maybe
do you want him to, though?
Contract.
Do you want him to sign? I mean, I just don't know. I mean, he missed a couple chances today, too. He's got to score. I don't know. It's tough. The problem is acquiring a top center forward is very, very expensive. I will say this, though. At least Moyes has enough adaptability in his style of play that you could play someone in NJ at forward. You don't need to be locked into this target. I mean, predominantly, we got Beto because we had to find someone that can play in the Dyche style, but also is versatile to play in other ways. And here's the question. Beto probably doesn't score the goal that Dom scores today. Or maybe does it differently. I don't know. Does he, was he a difference maker today? I think Dom in his day is better than Beto on his best day. That's just my take. I think Dom is a little bit better.
I don't even know if that's I think most people would probably agree with that. It's just that we haven't seen Dom perform well in so long that it was like, how many chances does he get? And maybe this is the game that kind of kickstarts the rest of the season for him. I still would like to see Beto. I'm surprised he didn't give Beto a shot the last few minutes to try to just, again, Beto would have had a ton of success against that back line. He could have got at them and bullied them a little bit. So I still think there's context where we could use both. I still would be very shocked if we come out of this window still having both on the payroll.
So many wrinkles here too, and their matchup differences. They're different players, really. If they're not going to be, even when they're playing the same function role, they're different. Some of these street fights, maybe Beto is the guy to come on, but you need to. You need to. I guess the question is Trimidi healthy? Can he be the second guy? Maybe you're, like I said, Njai could be it. The problem is Broja, if he has to go back, or if he's not going to be healthy for 3 months, what is the point of having him here? Maybe there is a point. Maybe it's later. You might want him, or the option to buy is attractive. I just think with yet another injury, I don't think you want to make that move. But I think we have the solution right now in front of us. We saw him today.
Yes, indeed. Another comment from Joe Thomas regarding the prodigal son of Everton, the one we all miss most, Richarlison. As his Spurs teammates gather at the away end, a shirtless Richarlison takes in the adulation of the Everton supporters in the Gladys Street. Maybe, again, Spurs are not in a position to be loaning out anyone given their injury concerns, but that would be like a lot of people saying this is like the dream move for the second half of the season, bring Richarlison back to say goodbye to Goodison.
Yeah, it'd be pretty fun. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. But again, if you did take kind of that type of forward that can play up top, play in different positions, I'll tell you what, I'd love to see what this team would look like with Richie coming on the left, Dom really firing down the middle, Njai right behind him, and Lindstrom on the right side. It'd be a lot different. Or really play Richie up top too when things aren't working. And there's just a lot. We need more attacking options, I guess. Yeah, I don't think this is a realistic one, but man, it would be poetic, wouldn't it? It really would be.
So nice.
It just makes me sad to we were talking about that today at the pub, and just seeing him go to Saudi would just be so.
I know.
Just kind of sad, I think.
Yeah, where those careers just they go to kind of just dwindle and die. Honestly, get a fat stack of cash, which that's important to these guys. But yeah, it just feel kind of wrong for someone in his prime like Richarlison to go. And I know the move to Spurs just hasn't worked out for him, so I do feel for him on that front. I don't even think that he necessarily wanted to go.
They should play him. Honestly, man,
they should have been playing him the whole time he's been there, and he just can't get a game.
It makes such a difference for them. They don't have that guy that can get off the ball and find spaces. That goal was perfect for him. It just, I don't know, it's disappointing. I just feel like they score when he plays, but they don't play him. Fine, whatever, their choice. Doesn't bother me as they drop in the table. That's good. A couple good comments from the Discord today. which I think are appreciated, which kind of triggers some interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah, starting with CPT Dex, the fact that we went from Deitch ball to this in 1 week shows Deitch was a limited coach tactically, and then went on to say, I know we have some coming back from injury, but if we lost any of the midfield players to injury, we're in trouble. No direct Ghana, Mangala, or Duke replacement on the bench. Yeah, I think that's a problem. To your earlier comment, Ryan, very interested to see what role James Garner plays in this Moyes midfield. Seems like the type of player Moyes would be very fond of, but he also is not similar in profile to any of those guys that we have currently in there, so it'd be a bit of a stretch. Maybe a little bit better playing the ball, so that could be advantageous. But, I mean, when Ghana went down and looked like he might be injured, that, in particular, losing him would be very, very scary. I agree with that.
He's just a very good player. Still is. And again,
100%.
I mean, I'm sorry, guys, that the recruitment did a good job with this guy. I mean, they got him in for pennies. They took forever to get him in. But, I mean, for a team that had no money, I mean, to get him in and play in the middle, I mean, he's been fantastic. I mean, really fantastic. Sleazy Toffee, good to see him today. Amazing how the vibes can shift after one win. Absolutely. 2 brilliant goals and 2 good performances by Lindstrom. And not John, but Jake O'Brien. The schedule lightens up soon, and if we carry today's momentum through February, we should be in a good place. Up the Toffees. Yeah, it just changes. It changes the feel. It changes the story a little bit. It gives us a little bit of breathing room, which we badly needed. But maybe it gives us some confidence. Some of these guys look like they were enjoying their football too, and that does matter, especially with the attackers. Like, you could be disciplined and tough and staunch in the back, but man, attackers need to flow. They need to play, and they definitely played today. And it seems like Spurs' depleted back line was the right recipe for us.
Yeah, it's just been so long since we've been able to talk about a win. The vibes are great. I mean, people are overreacting, and I don't blame them. Look, it's been so long, it's been so miserable, so few wins to talk about. When you finally get one, it is like,
enjoy it.
Just enjoy it. Just soak it in. Hopefully it won't be as long until the next one. I do feel like there were some very promising signs in attack in particular today. We'll see how that carries over to maybe better opposition, bottom line. But I also like this last comment we had from Blue Sky, Cletus Van Dam, who said, forgot the game could be played that way. It has been a long time since we've seen Everton look competent attacking, and we definitely did today.
And I think you've got to tip your hat to the guys that came on and made the difference, I mean, Dom being back and forth makes a massive difference, but the guys he was surrounded by that really made the difference. Ghana. Mangala was key too. We didn't really talk about him too much, but his ball movement, his ability to get on the ball was good. Njai and Lindstrom. I mean, those guys looked like a dynamic crew. I mean, just imagine if you could get Decore's legs in there with someone that was a little more quality on the ball, get a competent fullback or two. This team is going to be a lot better, and relegation should be it shouldn't even be close if we can do that, especially when you see some of the other teams out there that just don't, it's going to be hard to catch people. I get it. I mean, we're not some juggernaut, and I'm not going to ignore strength of schedule and how weak Spurs were today, but we haven't strengthened yet, and I think we will.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if we can carry over this positive momentum and get a few more pieces in areas of need, it should be comfortable survival for us, and I hope that that's the case. Moyes, clearly an improvement tactically and just using guys in the right way. Already head and shoulders above Sean Dyche. So I think you take the positives, you roll into it, we go forward and see where this ride takes us. But we'll be closely monitoring, of course, all the news, all the potential incomings, and it seems like there may be a couple that are not too far away. So stay tuned for more from the Blue Frontier, but that's going to do it for us on this post-match. We thank you all very much for tuning in. We appreciate it. One last reminder to please leave us a rating and review. Follow us on socials, join our Discord, links to all those things in the description. Otherwise, we'll be with you next time. Until then, up the Toffees.